most incredible mess politically in this country, that whichever way people voted, I don't believe that many people are happy with the outcome so far, that we spent 2 years with the government negotiating, with coming up now with these terms of agreement, and actually nothing really has been settled and nothing really has moved forward. And I think particularly there are things which we on the left, we should look at this referendum for what it was. It was an attempt by David Cameron to deal with the problems internally inside the Tory party by saying he'd call a referendum. He didn't think that he would win a majority, and when he won a majority, he had to do it, and he's gone off to his garden shed since then. But I think the question for us is not, you know, I feel very concerned really that what's happened about politics since then is that there's been massive division in society as a whole, and a big division on the left, which a number of people have referred to, which I think has been a very, very negative development. I think in lots of ways it's made it much, much harder to deal with some of the issues that face us day to day. I mean, we have, you know, 1 in 200 people in this country are homeless. What a shocking figure. Nearly 1 in 2 children are living in poverty. People are suffering under universal credit. All of these things are a daily reality of lives, as well as the things people have talked about. The conditions under which people work in this country are absolutely disgraceful, and certainly to people of my generation, nobody would have predicted this 40 years ago when we looked at it, the 0 hours contracts, the conditions under which people have lived. So I think the big challenge for the left, and I think it's really, really good that so many people here tonight, is how do we try to deal with this question of what we want from Brexit, but also how do we overcome some of these divisions and say the most important thing for us is what kind of society we live in, whether we can live in a more equal society, whether we can get rid of the situation like Carlos Ghosn, the man who runs 3 motor companies and has underreported his salary by millions of pounds, has even been put under arrest in Japan. Do we want people like this running the world, or do we want a society where ordinary working people can take control of their lives and run the world for the better? And it seems to me all these questions, however distorted the Brexit question is, begins to raise these much, much wider questions of what kind of society we want, and we have to try to provide the answers for that. I also think that we have to look at what the Tories are trying to do, because what they're trying to do is to keep as close to the European Union as possible, and as close to the kind of things that it stands for as possible, while supposedly honouring the result of the referendum. And Theresa May will do absolutely anything to scapegoat people in order to get her deal through. I mean, they say the deal can't get through, but Philip Hammond is trying to get business leaders everywhere to endorse it. There's more and more pressure. There's the whole thing that's going to go on at the EU this weekend. And what does she turn around this week and say? We want people to come from India and Australia. Well, certainly from India, that isn't usually the case. Most Indian people I know have fantastic problems coming to this country and living permanently in this country. But we want them rather than EU citizens who have been jumping the queue. Now, you could say EU citizens who had every right to come to this country, just as we as British citizens have every right to go and live in other countries. And I think we have to be very, very clear that we're not seeing any solution to the Brexit deal as one which talks about scapegoating immigrants and one which talks about people suffering as a result of being immigrants. And I think the first thing that this government should have done 2 years ago is to have guaranteed the rights of EU citizens in this country. And it's an absolute disgrace that that hasn't happened yet, and that actually people, when they do this, are going to have to pay huge sums of money in order to be able to do it. So, now, I'm rather horrified to find I'm one of the oldest people in this panel, but that's happening to me rather a lot these days. And so I voted to leave back in 75, and I voted to leave 2 years ago. I have absolutely no regrets about either of those, and I wouldn't change my mind over either of them. I'm not a nationalist, I'm an internationalist. It isn't about that. I'm not stupid, in my opinion, and so I really hate this idea that everybody voted me for some sort of idiot who just got taken in by Boris Johnson. People thought very, very hard about this vote, and they decided very, very seriously about this vote. Whichever way they voted, in my opinion, we shouldn't look down on them any more than we shouldn't look down on people who worry about which driving licence they're going to have once we leave the European Union, which in my opinion isn't a very important question either. And I'm certainly not a racist, but I do not believe that you can have the reform and remain perspective which the gentleman at the front talked about. And I'll tell you why, because I don't think the European Union is a reformable body. It's a totally undemocratic body. The European Parliament is a sham in terms of real democracy. Our Parliament's bad enough, but the European Parliament is something different altogether. It is a neoliberal club, and let's just look at what they are doing. I mean, I do wonder sometimes that the so-called intelligentsia in this country, who are very much pro-Remain, don't seem to understand the first thing about what's going on in Europe, or don't care. Do they know what Macron is doing in France? Do they know what is happening to the rail workers in France? Do they know all these things that are going on? Do they know the Italian government, which is a right-wing government of which I'm very much opposed, is being prevented from setting its own budget? Do they know what has happened in Greece? Do they know that collective bargaining has been driven down across Europe year after year after year as part of the weakening of workers' rights, not the strengthening of workers' rights? So the idea we're living in this kind of workers' paradise is, it's not just wrong, it's utterly bizarre that people think that this is what's going on, because all the things that we talk about in Britain are happening in every EU country to different degrees sometimes, but are happening every single place because they are trying to drive down wages, to worsen conditions, to make people work harder, while inequality grows and the people at the top get richer and richer. That is what is going on. And this is something I think we have to be opposed to. So, when we have this question, what comes out, if Theresa May's deal is voted down, what comes out of that, then it seems to me there are two big arguments put forward. The second referendum, which I'm sorry to say I think is growing in support in the Labour Party, and I think is a complete disaster for the Labour Party and for people in this country. What will the second referendum do? The first thing it will do is throw a lifeline to the Tories. That's the first thing it will do, because it will avoid any talk of a general election. The second thing it will do is put rocket boosters onto the far right in this country, and for reasons that people have already said, that is a completely disastrous idea. The third reason is it is a complete travesty of democracy. Everybody in Europe knows if you vote the wrong way, you have to do it again. The French have had that, the Irish have had it, the Danish have had it, they do it time and time again. And we should reject the idea that that is what is going on. So I would just say, in terms of what we're putting forward, we have to have a general election. I mean, to be honest, if Jeremy Corbyn wasn't the leader of the Labour Party, if it was a right-wing leader, there'd be a Labour government already. I'm absolutely convinced about that, because the BBC wouldn't be attacking these people all the time. There would be. They know the Tories can't deliver this, and therefore they would try and get their social democratic alternative. Because they know that Corbyn and his policies are a huge threat, not just to the EU, but to the whole neoliberal agenda. This is why there is so much vitriol against him, and again, you know, the letters pages of The Guardian practically every day. You know, why has Jeremy Corbyn let us all down? And the editorial says all this kind of thing. These are things which really we have to say the only way that we can solve this situation is a general election. We don't know what the outcome of the general election will be. It will be very divided. It will be quite a difficult general election. But unless we have a Labour government, unless we have a left-wing government, we will get the complete disaster which May is trying to foist on us, and that will have all sorts of terrible consequences. Just final point I wanted to make. The problem of British capitalism, and you're going to hear from, obviously, Larry and Costas and people who know much more about this than I do, but historically the problem of British capitalism has been what? It's a low investment and low productivity economy. You look back 100 years, and this is the pattern in all of this kind of situation. What do we need? We need, and the low productivity comes from lack of investment. What do we need? We need a situation where we turn that round, where we create decent jobs, where we create decent public housing, where we have a proper infrastructure, where we have all the different things that just simply don't exist in this country and which are getting worse and worse. How can that happen without a government committed to nationalisation and state intervention? It cannot happen without that, and as people have pointed out, that cannot happen when you've got the EU Commission preventing you from doing it. So I'd say we have to keep campaigning for a general election against a second referendum. We should join the parliamentary protest, we should join all of the protests that are going on, but also we should think about the other things. What about the strikes that are going on the railways? What about the big protest against racism last weekend? What about the environmental protest with the Extinction Rebellion? These are the kind of things we need to say. If we want to challenge this kind of Brexit, we've also got to challenge the class priorities of this rotten government and develop a policy which fights for working class people in this country. Thank you.